Welcome back. Today, we're going back to the 80s to revisit a show that, well, let's just say, didn't exactly set the world on fire. The Powers of Matthew Starr.
Oh, yeah. Matthew Starr, huh? It really did seem to have everything going for it, didn't it?
Yeah.
You know, alien prince hiding out on Earth. You've got Louis Gossett Jr., classic 80s sci-fi vibes, but it just, I don't know, it just didn't connect.
Yeah, and that's what we're gonna get into today, right? Like, why didn't this show work? You've been doing a lot of digging on this one, haven't you? Behind the scenes, production issues, the creative choices. Maybe there are some clues in there as to why Matthew Starr just flamed out. I'm getting that
Yeah.
that what could have been feeling already.
It really is. It is a fascinating study for sure. On the surface, I mean, you've got a really classic sci-fi premise. You've got this alien prince. He's from this planet Quadris. He escapes. He escapes this brutal invasion by these mysterious marauders, and he ends up hiding in plain sight here on Earth. He becomes like this totally average high school kid, Matthew Starr.
Okay, but hold on. Marauders. Who are these guys? Like, they're the bad guys. We get that, but the show doesn't really tell us much about them.
That's really one of the show's biggest missed opportunities, I think, honestly. We get little hints here and there, like they're humanoid, but they explode on contact with water. I mean, it's a pretty weird weakness for a galaxy conquering force, if you ask me.
Mhm.
They're technologically advanced, obviously, but their motivations are really murky.
It's like they were setting up this huge conflict, but never really like filled in the details, the blanks. Was it just lazy writing, or was there something else going on?
Well, we got to remember this was the early '80s. Sci-fi was still kind of finding its way on TV.
Mhm.
Shows like Battlestar Galactica had kind of pushed some boundaries, but budgets were generally pretty tight, and complex storylines weren't always the priority. It was a
Yeah.
lot of action, a lot of adventure with character development and world building kind of taking a back seat.
That's a good point. But even for the time, even considering all that, those Marauders, they do feel really underdeveloped. It's almost like they were just there as a plot device, just to
Hmm.
kind of create some conflict and not really fully fleshed out like actual villains.
Well, yeah, you're right. You're right. That's something we see a lot in '80s sci-fi studios. They're chasing that Star Wars magic, but they didn't really understand what actually made a villain compelling.
Hmm.
A great villain isn't just an obstacle, right? They're a reflection of the hero's struggles, like internal struggles. They're what force them to grow, to change.
Man, I am already starting to see how this show with just a couple of tweaks could have been something really special. But before we go too far down that road, let's go back to the beginning. You mentioned production problems, right? What was going on behind the scenes there?
Oh man, where do we even start? The show went through like a ridiculous amount of title changes before they landed on the powers of Matthew Starr. I mean, Star Prince, Star Knight, Night Star. They were kicking around all kinds of ideas.
Night Star. I can't even imagine that title on a serious sci-fi show, right? That sounds like a Saturday morning cartoon or something.
Right. Right. And that right there, that's kind of the problem, right? All that indecision about the title, it kind of points to a bigger issue. They just didn't seem to know like what the show was supposed to be about.
Yeah.
Like they were just chasing a trend, but they didn't really get what made shows work. It's a very common problem, honestly, in Hollywood. Chasing the next big thing without a clear idea of what makes your project unique. And then there was the accident, wasn't there? Didn't Peter Barton, he played Matthew, he was really badly hurt during filming.
Right.
Oh yeah. That was a pyrotechnics thing, right? It could have been so much worse. It shut down production for a while and obviously really shook up the cast and crew. Barton fell. He fell backwards onto the pyrotechnics, and Gossett was actually tied to a chair for the stunt. I mean, thank goodness he was able to pull him to safety.
Man, that sounds terrifying. It's a miracle they weren't both more seriously injured.
Things shifted pretty dramatically.
Hmm.
Like the high school stuff, it kind of faded into the background, and the show became much more episodic. Like it became all about, Matthew and Walt going on these missions.
Focus more on the action and less on the characters.
Yeah, you could say that. It's worth noting that, this shift coincided with a change in Matthew's powers too, right?
Oh yeah, yeah. His powers in the early episodes, it's mostly telekinesis, like that opening with the book floating back onto the shelf. But
Yeah.
but later he's doing astral projection and like
Hmm.
splitting his consciousness, even transmuting matter.
Right, exactly. And that kind of brings up some interesting questions, right? I mean, was that like a natural progression for his character, or
Yeah.
was it a way to kind of compensate for the narrative changes that were happening to keep the viewers interested with more with more cool special effects?
Yeah, I don't know. It did seem like his powers were developing really quickly. Like maybe the writers felt like they needed to just make things bigger to hold people's attention.
It's possible, definitely, but it also points to another issue that Matthew Starr really struggled with: the limits of 80s special effects. Right? We're not just picking apart a show that didn't work. We're looking at this world of what might have been. I mean, with a few changes, a few different choices, Matthew Starr could have been a huge hit, a real classic.
Okay, but let's not get too far ahead of ourselves.
Yeah.
Even with all the problems we've talked about, Matthew Starr did have some good stuff going for it. What really stood out for you? Like when you were rewatching it, what did you like?
Honestly, for me, it was Louis Gossett Jr.
Yeah.
He just brought so much to the role of Walt Shepard. Like he was the heart of the show, no question. He had this gravitas, but also this real warmth, and he and Peter Barton, they just had this great chemistry. I mean, it's a shame they didn't get more to work with.
Oh, I totally agree. Totally agree. Walt's backstory in particular, that was really interesting to me. This high-ranking official from Quadras, he gives up
Yeah.
everything to protect Matthew, and we just get these little hints about his past, his life on
Yeah.
Quadras. Like I wanted to know more about how he escaped the Marauders, what he had to do to keep Matthew safe.
And the interesting thing is that even with the shift to this more mission-based format,
Mm.
the show never totally abandoned these ideas of family and belonging. Like the relationship between Matthew and Walt, that stayed central to the show even as the stories got bigger and more action-packed.
That's true. That's true. It's like their relationship. It was the one thing that stayed consistent in a show that was changing all the time, right? Like in front of the camera and behind the camera, makes you wonder what they could have done if they had if they had really focused on that emotional core of the show.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, can you imagine a Matthew Star where the emotional stakes were just as high as the action stuff? You can really dive into the complexities of Matthew's double life, right? Like
Yes.
this alien prince trying to deal with human emotions, and then this teenage boy who's just trying to get through high school, but he's got this huge secret, this galaxy-sized secret.
It'd be like Smallville meets Buffy, with a little bit of like space opera thrown in. That's a show I would watch right now for sure.
Right. But it definitely paved the way for shows that came after that kind of took those ideas and ran with them.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. You can see bits of Matthew Starr in shows like Roswell or even Smallville, shows that were about alien teenagers trying to figure out how to live in the human world.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We're not just looking back at a show that didn't make it. We're looking at how a genre evolved, how these ideas they kind of stick around and change over time.
It's like we're putting together a puzzle, right? Trying to see how all the pieces fit, even the pieces that don't seem to make sense.
It really is amazing how a good idea can stick with you, right? Even if the show didn't quite work out the first time, it can still make you think about what might have been, about all the possibilities.
And that's what I love about doing this show. We don't just rehash the past. We engage with it. We ask questions. We try to imagine something new. We take these old shows that people have forgotten about and we find something valuable in them.
It's a good reminder that there are so many stories out there, even in the world of TV where there's just so much to watch. There are still these hidden gems, these shows that deserve another look.
Well said. Well said. And on that note, I think it's time for us to wrap up this deep dive into the powers of Matthew Starr. We've talked about a lot, from production problems to what the show could have been, and I hope we've shown you that even a show that wasn't perfect, that had its issues, can still make us think, can still make us dream a little.
It's been great talking about Matthew Starr with you, and who knows, maybe some of you listening will check it out now and see what you think. You might be surprised.